Just one more word. We're going to get into this Mavi Foolish again, but just one more word about it, because it's it really, I don't think it came out so clearly, and the Rashi doesn't really speak too much about it. But it seems that the logic is that if you have a Mavi, an L-shaped Mavi, open on both ends, the Gemara's question was. There was one step that was bothering me. Like if it's less, so the Gemara proved it had to be 10 or less, right? And that was going to basically be essentially a proof to Rav Huna that it's called a breach, that it's too wide, because if you held, right, because that was machlokas, is it 10 amos or is it 4 tfachim? So the proof to Rav Huna was that if it's if indeed the other opinion was right, which is the opinion of 10 amos, then why would you call it a Mavi Sasum? In other words, like typically you'd want to call it a closed Mavi if you could, if in all in a perfect world you'd want to close it up. You'd want to look at it as if it was closed. If indeed the breach of 10 amos or less would be considered closed, why would you call them Mavi foolish? That's what I want to say. You'd prefer to close it. You'd prefer to look at it as two closed Mavis. It would be less complicated. Why would Rav look at it as an open Mavi? Must be because Rav holds that I can't look at it as a closed Mavi because the breach is too far. That's really just to simplify one more time, that was the proof. Because in other words, why would Rav go to the extent of calling it a mavim or foolish if I have a right to close it? Because there's a 10 am or less breach. If 10 am or less breach could be closed, if I viewed it as closed, then it should be two mavi sasims, not one big mavim or foolish. The fact that he looks at it as a mavim or foolish proved at that step that it was indeed it was too big to close, and it wasn't. You couldn't look at it that way, and that's why that was a riot. Okay. So we are on Vavim at Beis, and we'll get back to Vavim Foolish. It's going to come back a little bit to haunt us. Let's see here. So we're here discussing the idea of how you close up Rishus Harabim, and the Gemara asked, what do you mean you can't close up Rishus Harabim? I think we're up to the answer where Yehuda gives us the answer. Right? We proved from the case of Yushalayim, we proved from the case of Avulei de Mechuza that if you don't close the doors of that city or of that Rishus Harabim, it would be considered Rishus Harabim. So there's no way to tell me that Beis Hillel holds that you can simply do what the Brisa says you can do, which is two different opinions. The Tanakhama said all you got to do is make it Tzur Pesach on one side and a Lechin according to the other side. The Hananya argued and said, according to Beis Hillel, you need one door and one Lechi or Korah, but it seems like that's not true. It seems like in a real Rishus Harabim, you can't make an Erev unless you literally totally enclose it on both sides with doors. So something is wrong. Something has to be readjusted here. So I believe we're up to Amr of Yehuda, right? We agree on that. Amr of Yehuda, about 10 lines down. Hachi Kamar. Let me restate the original Brisa, because the words of the original Brisa on Vav and Aleph were Keitzad Ma'arvin Derech Rishus Harabim. How do you make an Erev in a street which is Rishus Harabim? We disproved that by saying these things are not going to be able to rectify a real Rishus Harabim. So what does this Brisa mean? So Yehuda says, Hachi Kamar. By a quarter of